afternoon. I'd like to call a special meeting to order, Monday, March 28th, 2016. This meeting is strictly to do some interviews for candidates applying for the open fire commissioner's seat. Our first interview is with Richard Check. Okay. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for putting your application in. I'm going to start off, unless anybody wants to say something different, I'm going to start off with a few basic questions, and from there, each one of my fellow commissioners can add from there.
Could we ask him to put you can sit up here, right here. You can sit in the chair up here.
Yeah, you can move up to this chair here. I'm sorry. And for the record, would you state your name, please?
Sure. First name is Richard. Middle initial is K for Kenneth. Last name is Check, spelled C-H-E-C-K. And I'm called Rick.
Okay. One of the first questions that I always ask when we go through this process is, why are you running?
Two reasons. I became involved in the events surrounding the need for another fire station and facility in the East Coast, if we will, and learned some things that piqued my interest about the fire district. And those weren't that it was doing a poor job, because I think it's doing an excellent job from my review of the records. But there are some things that may keep it from meeting future needs. And so I'm not one to sit back and not approach that. And then I was encouraged to apply. I have a little bit of a medical dental background and understand some of the things that may create increased needs as we go forward. So that's why.
Okay.
I'm not a political person. I have no political
Well, that's my very next question. Do you have a personal agenda against anybody that works for the department or anybody?
Oh, no.
Well, and I have to ask that question.
Sure.
Because from where we sit, and we've had this, we've always asked this question because if somebody just is trying to get onto the board because they have a personal agenda against either a commissioner or an employee of the district,
Yeah, no, none whatsoever.
we don't, we don't feel
I
that's
appreciate
necessary.
that. Okay.
Well, you touched on my next question. You touched on something there that it's a two-part question. What do you think we do well, and what do you think we need to improve on? And
Okay. I think you respond well. I really do. And I think you assess the needs of the community well. And I speak from experience in another part of the land where it's not quite so well done. In my neighborhood, in another place, we had 3 houses burned to the ground within 25 years. And I had a fire and contained, but my son and I put it out because the response took 35 minutes. And that was not because of disinterest, it was just because of the way it was set up.
was that a paid department or was that a volunteer?
Probably about 4 paid employees, but a volunteer department. Regardless, you know, I see the need for the service, absolutely. And so what I think you do very well, one thing that's outstanding, sort of amazed me, is that you have EMTs and paramedics on your rigs, on the fire engines. I think that's outstanding. The approach to the continued need for medical response needs to continue, because that's not going to go away. And so I think you do that well. The second part, what do I think you need to do? I think that this goes back not too far and yet farther. You've just been through the battle to get your own ambulance service, and I personally wouldn't give up on that. I think that it makes a lot of sense to bring it in-house and use the same people that are trained to do paramedic work on those rigs alternately as well. think that would help cost containment. I don't know your budget very well. In my business background, I'm used to looking at those things, but always people in the city look at what's this costing us. I had a conversation with a neighbor last night over for dinner, and it's amazing how much people tend to know. So you have to look at that. I don't know what that means, but I think that you need to do that. The third thing, which a lot of people might not recognize, but and you have it, and that is an approach to water safety with fire and rescue. And I don't see anybody else on down here, that is Estero or Fort Myers Beach, that have that. I might not know what they do have, but it seems to me that Bonita Springs is uniquely placed to provide that. And if that can be embellished and be made cost effective, then I could see that as a service to the whole area. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you. If appointed to this seat, would you commit to running for the seat in November?
It's a little early for me to say yes, but my interest is yes. What I see the department as needing, or it could develop, couldn't be done between now and November. So if I got into that, I probably would.
And having said that, would you agree to attend the Florida Association of Special Districts Education Program to become a certified public official?
Sure.
It takes a couple of years because they only give the courses quarterly and things like that. But would
Okay.
you agree to do the
Yeah.
the education that it takes to
Sure, I don't mind
to
that.
be good at this job? All right, that's what I have. You want to start? Commissioner Report, you have any questions?
Judging by your resume, do I approach you as Dr. Check?
No, please don't. I am, but
Would you pull that mic a little closer?
I don't even wear socks.
Would you pull that mic a little closer to you?
Okay,
'Cause
thank you.
I can't hear very well.
Okay.
I guess my question is very, very simple. As a citizen, how do you view the objectives of this organization? When I say this organization, I mean the Fire and Rescue District.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think they're right on track. I reviewed them. I looked at your mission statement several times, and I think it serves the public interest well. I think there's a lot of parts that go into serving the public interest. One thing I looked at and looked again to see, which I didn't see, is the time for delivery of a rescued victim or patient to the end point of treatment, meaning a hospital or an emergency room. We count and track time to arrival at that person. But in many cases, that's only half the issue. It goes beyond that. I personally, in my neighborhood, feel that I'd be responsible for telling people we're spending their money well. So I can't ignore that. I think the budgetary process is a very important part of this. But before that comes quality of service. So I think what you're doing is done well, and I would simply want to continue it and improve it.
I guess more specifically, how would you view our job as a board versus the guys that actually do the work over here?
Sure, I understand that. I think I understand it. I get the feeling, which hasn't had a lot of experience, that you react by responding to the needs and wishes of the people who are really performing the service. And you have to weigh in your own mind what is good for the community and what is not. You're the go-between. And you hold that as a responsibility. You have to be responsible to the community to see that their needs are met, because you really represent them. I like the people in the fire department, but there is no one else other than you that represents the people of the city and their visitors and guests, because this city goes from a mere 49,000 in the summer to what, 100,000 in the springtime?
At least 85 anyway.
Yeah, it's just a huge change, and somebody has to represent them, and that's you. I couldn't ignore that, and that comes from providing the quality I've mentioned, as well as doing it in an efficient and economical way. Does that answer your question?
Well, I think so.
Okay.
Obviously, your credentials, I think, can add a lot to this board, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
What, do you have any specific objectives in mind that you'd like to see here? Anything you'd like to accomplish, let me put it that way.
Overall? Oh, yes. Yeah. You all were here when I gave a little presentation surrounding the firehouse plan for Little Hickory Island as it was. And I gave you an anecdotal incidents where I experienced what I termed to be the failure of an emergency response. Fortunately, my office was set up to handle everything we needed, more so than the ambulance that showed up. Specifically, this was a pediatric case, and when you intubate somebody for a pediatric case, there are special endotracheal tubes that you use. I had them. They didn't. We used mine. It was already in place, you know, and it went with the rig, and I rode the rig to the hospital in that one case. I think that we need to be sure that an efficient and effective ambulance situation is present, and that it is within a short time of the needed place to be. But I quite frankly think, as what happened in my episode, was that the EMS situation went to this flexible asset management plan where the rig was kept at what we used to call a 1019. That's the old, you know, 10-4 good buddy system. And they don't use that anymore, I guess. But, and I don't have that answer. The chief and I have talked about it a little bit, and I know there are problems with it, but it's thinking out of the box. And my approach would be to look at new approaches, not to decide them, but to look at them and see that they're presented for everybody to consider and look at and decide upon. Because that's the only way you're going to meet a changing future, if you keep doing what you're doing. And I'm not saying that's bad. I've already said that's good, because it is. But I think you have to keep looking at new things and new ways to meet problems that aren't staying the same. They're growing. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Thank you, Dr. Chuck.
Okay.
Well, just to add one thing.
That the people on the beach really don't want a fire station there. And that's because there's an attitude, and not an unworthy attitude, to keep it as a small town atmosphere. And yet, we have the same people, some of them, and it's funny, they will comment, I don't care if they put that ambulance in my driveway, I want it here. And yet, you know, so it's a balance. So there has to be a compromise. And as far as having a fire engine permanently housed there on the island, I'm not sure that's necessary, and I'm not sure that would serve ultimately the best interest. There may be some rational reason to look north on Big Hickory Island, or even north of that on Lover's Key, because that coming in traffic doesn't face the same problems that going west does. And going west and east on Bonita Beach Road, as it currently is a nightmare for an emergency rig. I've seen it happen several times. One very effectively, where the line zipped sideways and they went down the middle. So I got involved with the visionary study, as you may know, in the city, when they proposed narrowing Bonita Beach Road so that they could put in a bike path. And I even sent letters and copied the chief one. That can't happen, because we need to have that space. On Big Hickory Island, or Little Hickory Island, usually an ambulance or a fire engine can make that space because there's room to go to the side. If they put up a curb and gutter, that'll change. So people on the island realize we need to be able to get the traffic to pull to the side, and so that people can move through there, so the ambulance can get through there, and the fire engine.
Well, I'd like to say something to that, because your comment about the people on the island wanting an ambulance, nobody wants that more than I do and everybody else up here. but every one of our trucks and engines are an ambulance. The only thing they can't do is transport.
Yep.
And that's the fight that I've been leading now for close to 7 years, and frustrating at times, but have not given up on at all. So the reason that we send an engine is that engine is an ambulance.
Sure.
It's stocked and equipped as well, if not better, than Lee County EMS. It was nothing that we can't do with those engines or the truck that they can't do. As
And
a matter
I
of fact,
agree
as
with
a
you.
matter of fact, we can intubate. They can't. So we
Yeah.
can actually go further than EMS. So, having said that, if we find a location on the beach and we do put something there, it will be an engine because that is our ambulance.
Okay.
Okay. Until such time that we are allowed to have our own ambulances. Okay. It helped. And you brought up a very, very excellent point. I want to commend you on the point that you made about we concentrate a lot on how long it takes us to get there, but the end, what's the end run? And I thought that was an excellent question. Unfortunately, we can control how long it takes us, generally speaking, to get from here to there. We can't control how to get from there to the final destination, because that's out of our control.
And therein comes my comment that I would, quite frankly, continue to pursue getting that COPC or.
Well,
the
as long as I
certificate
can
of
still
need.
draw breath, sir. I think everybody, to a person in this organization, knows where I stand on that, and I will go to my grave fighting for this because I know it's right, and I think that everybody I work with here knows that's right, and we are fighting a political battle that, quite frankly, doesn't make sense. It's turf protecting. It's but there's other steps. We still have more bullets in the gun, even though it appears that we're down and out. We still have more bullets in the gun.
Good.
And next year will be another legislative year. We're still, and the more people in this, I want to say we had close to 1,700 signatures on a petition that we turned in originally to the Lee County Commission. Now, I thought that was a fairly good amount of people for me to go up and hand them, supporting us having our own COPCN. Our own mayor of the city council went up and the city did a proclamation. They did the whole 9 yards backing it, which is one of the requirements of getting a COPCN. And okay, there's nothing here that isn't a win-win for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And the unfortunate thing is that all the way up to the state level, the state doesn't want to take authority away from the county, because the state doesn't like to mess with local government, and we're just fighting a battle. What we're trying to do is get some laws completely changed at the state level, so it doesn't take anybody's authority away. It's just a simpler process.
Okay.
But we are working on that. But the main point I wanted to make here is that when you see a fire truck, that is an ambulance.
I know
okay?
that.
That's our ambulance.
I
And I want to make that clear,
Yeah.
because the average person sees a fire truck going down the road. They think the only thing a fire truck does is spray water, okay? That fire truck is your ambulance. The only thing we can't do is throw you in the back and take you to the hospital. So that's the point I wanted to make there. And until such time that we can have our own ambulance, if we do find a location on Little Hickory or Big Hickory or wherever it ends up, there will be an engine there, because
That's what you have.
that's what we have. That's what we have to. That's the tools we have to work
Sure,
with. So
I
I
understand that.
just want to make that clear. Anybody else have anything they want to add? We're good. You have anything you would like to add?
No, thank you for the
No,
opportunity.
thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for putting in and
think you do a
taking the
good
time.
job.
So appreciate it.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Questions that I would normally ask somebody as running as a new commissioner are probably out the window, because you did this for 20 years.
Yes, sir.
So for me to sit here and start questioning why you're doing it, and the question that I think for the record needs to be answered is, you resigned from the board for whatever you want to say about that, for personal reasons, and why now, when you resigned then, why now do you feel you're ready to come back? And that's
Yes, sir. Well, I did, as most of you know, I had a
I'm in my colon, a cancer, and had to take that out, almost all of it. And when they took it out, they didn't know if they could leave enough in there to hitch me back up or let me wear that damn bag the rest of my life. So I was out for a while, and I took it back in, and I did have enough left to hook that bag up on me. And I come out, and I was stay at home for quite a while, and then I could come to stuff like this for a while, you know. And then after a while, it was starting kind of bugging me a little bit. And I know that I didn't want to do too much work on it here and there and the other, so I'll just, you know, do the best thing for me in the future and the fire department. So I got out, and I got to thinking, and things got, you know, over a little period of time, it got better, and it got better. I had another appointment with the doctor, and he said, you know, you're going to be okay. But at the very beginning, I didn't want to take the chance. And if I knew you, I wouldn't have got it, but I'd like to have a leave of absence. Maybe that's what I should have did or tried to do. But then I was kind of shook on that. But right now, I'm very good shape,
okay.
and that's the main reason I'm back in.
I think we assume that, but for the record and for this interview purpose, that question had to be asked. And obviously now you feel healthy enough that you could go back into your position and
with no doubt.
Would you run again? Finish your last term. If you were appointed to finish Commissioner Forbes' term, would you run again for the seat in November?
Yes, sir. No, there's no doubt about that. I would. Yes.
Okay.
The
education questions I'm not going to ask you because you've got most of the stuff that you need, and
yeah.
I think that my portion of this is over because I've worked with Frank and I know. So the people that haven't and the people that everybody else up here that wants to ask him any questions, go for it.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Yes, sir.
It's really hard to interview someone like you with your experience. But let me say this, we're an independent taxing board, or independent taxing authority, I should say. And how do you view the function of this board versus the fire department, the guys that actually do the work?
What you mean? Are we?
Excuse me, let me preface that. As a citizen,
Yes, sir.
how do you view the function of this board versus the fire department, the guys that
I
actually do the
think
work?
they're doing a number one, beautiful job. We're getting it done and doing it with what we need and bring it in. I think everything's really been, the taxes and everything we're never getting more than we want or ask for more than we get, or we've always got along good with what we got. And as far as what we're getting, I think it's good. And I hope every year we can maybe get in some more because this place is growing. We got number 6 and number 7's be coming along, and we're going to have more taxes. I don't know, you gentlemen, I hope I'm there to help. We got to get ways to do all this stuff and prepare for the future. So I'm not really no great on that stuff like that. So, but when I'm up with everybody else and we kick it around in that room there one day when the public's not on there, I get a better idea of what's been going on, and I'll have to solve. But I think it's good, okay, right now.
I guess more specifically, is there any difference between the way we function or should be functioning versus the way the fire department functions? The objectives that we have.
I don't really understand. I know about that. Am I?
Let me see if I can put it a different way.
Okay.
I view this board as representing the citizen. Okay.
I'm not too good on all that stuff, but that's the way I feel about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Former Commissioner, welcome. And you've got more experience here with this department than all of us up here put together.
Yes, sir.
And I appreciate your years of service. I was here the night that you had your retirement, and it's nice to see you putting your application in and coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be given good consideration.
Thank you.
Frank, I just have one question. Since you've resigned and sat in the audience and watched the work of the board and the fire department, have you seen anything that you see that we might be missing, that we might be going a better direction or do better in any direction at all? I mean,
For-
anything at all?
As far as the commissioners go, you're saying, should they?
Yeah.
No, no, I haven't really been too close on the past year and a half or year that I've been gone, but to be honest with you, I think everybody's doing a great job. I haven't heard any complaints from any. I know there's some people out there complaining, there always will be. But just the way it is just makes me happy. And to me, it's great. I don't think nobody's any better than we are with what we get. And I'm just interested in getting back in this place and getting a number 6 and a number 7, and just that's what I want to do. I want to get back here and get everything's rolling as far as you can do now because of the county and everything like that to get the money or the land or something like that. But I really want to start beating on that bad and see if we can get that stuff coming in. And I'm the type of guy also that if somebody brings something up on this board and everybody says yay and I say nay, I'm not going to say anything, and I'm going to go wrong. I'm going to go right along with those other 4 guys. We got to all work together, and it's not going to do me any good or anybody else, one person. If that what we were working on goes bad, I'm not going to say, we did it wrong and all that, but it's always went through for me. I've never, put anything bad to the people that I wasn't in clue of, but it always went through. I got to keep together and honest with everybody as far as I'm concerned.
Anybody else have any further questions? You all set? Thank you, sir.
Thanks.